Please note that the content of this episode has explicit language and is not suitable for underage listeners. Hi, I'm CJ, and I've done phone sex for 24 years. Let's get started. Again, I want to thank you for listening to Secrets from a Phone Sex Queen, everything you always wanted to know about phone sex and more. Please reach out to me with your questions and comments. You know I love them. At phonesexqueen1@gmail.com. If you're listening on YouTube, please do not forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to receive notifications on when new podcasts are dropped. I wanted to start out with a question I've been asked a lot lately, and that is, what do I charge? I don't know if I've actually told you what I've charged, but I charge $1.39 a minute. In the scheme of things, that's really low because I only get 70% of that. At any time in the last 2 years that I've tried to increase my price, my regulars have not been happy with me, and I decrease it. They write me and they really complain about why I increased it. And I've been only trying to increase it by 10 cents. I mean, there are women on there who charge a lot more than me. I decided I can't not increase it. I decided that I looked on the page of the girls where there's 12 girls per page, and there are people who are charging $2 and $3+ a minute. And I'm not greedy. I don't want to do that. So I decided about a week ago to increase my price to $1.59. Ooh. I mean, I really do want it to be affordable for people. I understand that this is a luxury, not a necessity. For some people, it is a necessity, but for the most part, you get it. One of my regulars called me and said, I noticed that you raised your price and you're worth it. Great. Will he continue to call me? Hopefully. But I've noticed that I'm getting some new callers, so I'm not going to decrease my price. But what I can do is if somebody calls me or writes me that's a regular and they complain about my price, which they really shouldn't, but if they do, I can lower it for them. The problem with that is other people see it, and then they wonder why my price goes back up really quickly when I'm off a call. I'm hoping that my regulars keep calling me, and they don't complain about it, but we can move forward. I know this is not my primary job, but I do work hard at it. And so I feel like I deserve that extra 20 cents, which really takes me to about 98 cents per minute for me. It's like $1, which is what I'd like. So we'll see how it goes in the next few weeks, but I think that it's reasonable and not off the charts. Like I said, some of the girls are in the 2s and even 3s, and I saw someone at $6.99, which I think is ridiculous. That is just gouging as far as I'm concerned and being greedy. But a lot of these women do this for a living. And they're trying to make as much money as they possibly can. I don't begrudge them that. But again, in the scheme of things, that's a little extreme in the 6s and even in the high 3s. But that's just me. And I'm going to just do what I'm going to do. Yeah, so I just wanted to answer that question. It's $1.39. I went to $1.59. For callers who write me from this podcast and want to be a customer, if you will, I charge them $1. So I do give a discount not calling on the platform, and it's $1 a minute, and we work out an arrangement. So that's worked out lovely, and I appreciate that. I had a call recently. I might have mentioned this person before. I probably have mentioned a lot of my callers before, and if I have, I apologize, but I want to discuss this particular call. This caller is about 76 years old and usually calls me to discuss all sorts of things: health issues, travel issues, good things, bad things. It's very rare where he wants to have phone sex, and that is not surprising to me. He has often said he loves me, cares about me, thinks about me, and wants me to meet him, or he wants to meet me. This particular call, he out of the gate says he's horny. I'm like, how are you? I'm horny. And I have to immediately change my mindset to follow him instead of keeping it clean. That is really what I want to do with him, but I felt like I had an obligation because it's my job to follow along with what he wanted. Believe it or not, at the age of 76, he wanted to be very, very submissive. He always wants to be submissive. And as you already know very well, I'm not dominant, so I have to walk this tightrope with him and be what he wants me to be. He tells me in some cases what to say, and after a little while, well, I wouldn't say a little while, after a while, he finishes up. And we're back to talking like nothing had happened about his ailments, his trips, all sorts of things. He expresses to me that he wants to see me, that he cares about me, and that I should look at my calendar and let him know when it's convenient for him to come to California. That is pretty rough for me. Let me explain to you the issues I have with what I just told you. As I've mentioned to you ad nauseum, I'm here for the caller no matter who it is, no matter what they want. But when somebody calls and changes things that dramatically, and in this particular case with his age being what it is, it's a real challenge for me because I need to please him, and yet I feel weird doing it. It feels borderline creepy to me. Then, on the other hand, I feel super bad when he wants to meet me and I just say, "You're so sweet, thank you," and I can't meet him or I don't want to. So in the end, what I'm saying is, as weird as it feels and as strange as it feels, I still did my job and he was happy, which is all that matters. It's very rare when I hang up the phone with someone that I feel bad or good, or I usually just move along to the next. But with this particular person, I feel a little guilty, and of course I get over it. Of course I do. Trust me. But I feel a little guilty and a little sad because he's alone. He has expressed his feelings, and so I just feel bad. I don't like lying in general, which this job is totally about lying, and I don't have a problem with it usually. But for some reason, certain people get to me, and it feels strange. I'm not going to tell them the truth, of course, but I'm over it. And it usually takes me, with this person, about 10 to 20 minutes to get past it, because I think about him being alone and how sad he is. And, I'm human and it bums me out. So I was telling my friend about this call, and that led to a series of questions about looks. Do I want to know what my callers look like? And in particular, this gentleman, because we were talking about him. The discussion went on because my friend was saying to me, unsolicited by me, "How could you not want to know what he looks like, or anybody else?" And I said, well, in the past, I've been doing this a long time, as you know. So in the past, people have sent me photos of them, and it changes the way I talk to them, which it shouldn't, but sometimes it does. More often than not, I will get a dick pic that I didn't ask for, and that changes things too. But occasionally people will send me a photo of themselves, and I'm like, oh, goodness. Now I have to have that image in my mind, and more often than not, it's not pleasant. I'm, to be perfectly honest, it's just not. So I told her, no, I have no desire to see anyone's photo. If they want to send it to me, they certainly are welcome to, but I don't ever ask. I like to not know what someone looks like, and that question has come up a lot about wanting to see my callers. It's not necessary, and frankly, it's easier if I don't. And I've said this too, as one of my friends says, I'm a phone sex operator with a heart, and it's true. I feel bad for that caller, and I feel bad for many callers. So if you're listening to my podcast, and if you are a customer, do not take offense. It has nothing to do with anything but let's use our imaginations. You may see what I look like if you were on my platform, but you're not. It's just better if we use the theater of the mind, as they say. It really is for both of us. I have another regular who's been calling me this week, and I've mentioned him in podcasts previously. I think I've mentioned him multiple times in podcasts previously. But this time he wants to get arrested, and he wants me to call the police and get him arrested. He wants to go to jail. Then he says he wants to stop this fantasy. So it's weird. He first wants to go to jail, and then he goes, but I need to stop this fantasy. So at first I said, I can't get you arrested because what have you done? And he said he had taken some things from Target. And I go, I doubt that'll get you arrested. And I kind of laughed, and I said, you need to do something worse, and you're not going to do it. So we've kind of left it there. He's the guy that likes to be called Little Dick Loser, and he likes pretty women and sends me pictures of his little dick, and he wants me to pass them around and have my girlfriends post them on the internet. And in the past, I've told him that I've done that. He's gotten away from that, and now it's this whole I want to be arrested thing. He wants to go to jail, and he lives with his mother, and he plays video games. So when he called me again, I said, don't you live with your mom? And he said, yes. I said, well, wouldn't your mother be upset? And he said, yes. He says, please don't call the police. And I said, well, there's no reason for me to, because you haven't done anything like stealing a car or something like that. And I don't want to give him any ideas. He won't do it. He said he had to get away from these fantasies and what he's thinking. Why does he want to be arrested? He really won't tell me why. I've asked him why, and frankly, it doesn't matter to me. But for someone to tell me, or anybody, please call the police on me, I want to be arrested, and you haven't done anything, that's a bit strange. And it's not even a sexual fantasy. What it is that a strong, or what he thinks is a strong, beautiful woman is basically overpowering him, and that's what he wants. He did call me the next day to be sure I didn't call the police. I told him I had no intention to do so. Then I said, you told me you've spent a lot of money on escorts and phone sex, and you haven't tipped me once. And when I've asked for a tip, you hang up on me. He said he would do it right then. And for the first time, he did. He tipped me $20. I don't normally ask to be tipped, but in this case, I felt like I deserved it. So, there are extremes to what I get as far as phone calls are concerned. You have the older gentleman who's lonely. You have this guy who wants to go to jail for no rhyme or reason, really. And if there is, he's not sharing that with me, and that's okay. You can never be prepared for what kind of calls you're going to get. Your regulars can change it. It doesn't happen often, but they can change their fantasy or whatever it is that they want. And as a phone actor, you're just not really ever prepared for what it is you're going to hear. And I try very hard not to act too stunned about it and just to go with the flow. But occasionally it'll come out where I'm surprised and act like, oh my gosh, you want to do what? So I wanted to share that with you. Each call and caller is unique, even if it is irregular and with the same fantasy each time. It's rare that they change it up, but it's okay with me. I do like reliable and predictable calls. It makes my job so much easier. And like I've said in the past, callers who set up the call, who have an idea, who have a story, who have a fantasy, I love those people too. So for those of you who are my customers and listening, I appreciate you more than you know. I want to thank you for listening to Secrets from a Phone Sex Queen. Everything you always wanted to know about phone sex and more. Please reach out to me with your questions and comments at phonesexqueen1@gmail.com. New episodes drop when they drop these days. Sorry about that. I'm still recovering. Check me out on Facebook at CJ's Podcast, Instagram at Phone Queen 1. If you're listening on YouTube, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you get notified when a new podcast is dropped. I love you guys so much. Until next time, stay sexy.